Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. And now the transcript is running. So we are at 11:23 according to my phone, and we've been working on getting on the air since 11. I've already done the intro a couple times. Hopefully the message will go out to people that we are on air live again, and they'll join us for basically the second half of our first hour. This is Mind Shifters Radio, where we're here and grateful to everyone who's joining us as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using the tools that are made available through Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that webpage and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can get access to the tools that they offer and download them absolutely free. And we hope you do that because our experience is the more people use these tools and apply them in their lives, the better their lives get. If you want assistance in doing that, that's what this internet show is for. If you want to learn about the tools from the beginning, that's also what this internet show is about. And we'd be happy to help you with that in any way we can. The tools are based on Michael Rice's work with the ancient Aramaic text of the Khabouris manuscript, the oldest known copy of the New Testament, which has been, part of it has been translated directly from the ancient Aramaic into English, and his work with the Course in Miracles, and the understanding, as we find it in the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery, that the ancient meaning for the word forgiveness was a tool to go inside myself and remove whatever is less than love, whatever doesn't belong there. And so in the active application of the use of these tools in my life, I've made my life better beyond what words can describe. And we're hopeful that if you apply these tools in your life, you'll have a similar benefit. So I will ask Susan Bingham if you can hear me now. Now you seem to be in the app. And or at Lane, you can type in the comments to let me know if the audio is working. Susan Bingham says yes. So thank you there. At least one person is hearing us. And so we have time for comments or questions. The show, as it was going to happen, has been shifted as we're trying to accommodate the technology and whatever glitches might happen. And Lane says she can hear us as well. So thank you, Lane. And so we are working on getting familiar with this new platform, the Needle app, and making the transition over from our previous platform that we were on for 14 years, and working out the bugs of the technology. It's an amazing set of technology that includes platforms both Apple and Android, and all kinds of stuff. It includes Wi-Fi and things that the technology goes way beyond my little brain to be able to understand. I'm just grateful for the people that do this for a living and can make it all happen, seemingly magically at times. So I had mentioned yesterday that I was going to be doing an interview with Dr. Ross Ellenhorn. And Dr. Ellenhorn is the founder of the largest and widest and there's another notification that we've gone live, so maybe more people will join us soon. The ellenhorn.com is a great place to find out about their programs and their facilities. They see recovery from disruptive states of mind uh, and the recovery and integration into reintegration into family and life as important and as something that can happen without having to be hospitalized or having your entire lifestyle disrupted. It's founded by a psychiatrist and a clinically trained sociologist who is Dr. Ross Allen Horn, and it blends the most robust psychiatric care of any private community-based program in the United States, blending that with the nation's most intensive multidisciplinary treatment that is specifically aimed at helping clients remain integrated in the world. We believe at Allen Horn that staying connected to the world is central to an individual getting better. We are social creatures. Our brain is primarily a social organ, and it's very disruptive when people have to leave their jobs, leave their home, leave their community to try and get some assistance with some um, uncomfortable or disruptive mental processes. And so they work actively with a psychiatrist and with um, master's level therapists to keep people in their home, in their community, at their job, and get um, assistance in overcoming any challenges they have and doing it for the most part without stigmatizing diagnoses. So it was to my eye and ear, a lovely interview, and I'm hopeful that I can also get him interviewed by Dr. Roger McFillin on the Radically Genuine podcast and spread the word. Spread the word. Spread the word about Journey's Dream and the Journey's Dream podcast that's titled On Your Mind, hosted by Journey's Dream. And that's available at onyourmindpodcast.org or at journeysdream.org/podcast. And we've got 189 podcasts that have been published, or 188 that have been published, and 189 that have now been recorded and edited and submitted. So please feel free to avail yourself of that free resource. That's I have interviewed 188 different people that are either have had lived experience of mental health challenges or they are working in the field in ways that are innovative and creative and integrative and functionally medicine oriented. And I've had a number of people tell me that they thoroughly enjoyed or found really good information, or they found a pathway to get help for themselves or a loved one through a mental health challenge that's radically different from what most people get when they show up at their doctor's office or at the ER or at a mental health facility. Because these days, our mental health care that is um, paid for by insurance is, generally speaking, based on the medical model, which says the person is sick or damaged or broken and they need treatment and or medications to change something going on in their brain. And so it is disruptive and stigmatizing, to say the least. And in many cases, it's actually traumatizing rather than healing. So that's what this podcast is about, and we've been doing it for basically for 5 years now. I've been donating my time to that project, and I would be quite pleased if you'd avail yourself of that and or spread the word. Get other people to get access to it. You can also follow that podcast on YouTube. You can go to your YouTube and then type in the Journey's Dream channel, follow that channel, subscribe to it, and then every time we post an interview and it gets posted on podcasts, it also gets posted on the Journey Stream website, and it also gets posted on YouTube, you'll get a notification from YouTube. And then you can actually listen along, or you can watch the video of the interviews that I do with these people from around, sometimes around the globe. There have been people in Australia, there have been people on the UK, lots of people from different places in the United States, and hopefully that's beneficial for you. That's our intent with that work, is the same as with this Mindshifters Radio, is to be of service. So let us know how we can be of service. What's happening, and what kind of questions might you raise that we could answer in the 25 minutes or so that we have left in this first hour? I'm a little off my game because of the technical starts, fits, and restarts. I've had some intense sessions with people lately around the issue of accepting, or them being able to feel comfortable with accepting compliments, and or what they would consider a compliment, and oftentimes I would simply consider a description. I spend quite a bit of time at in various sessions where I'm helping people understand the difference between a description or a comment and a compliment. I'm now responding to somebody who's asking about the show in a text. So, welcome Jill, welcome Matt Lane, welcome Jeannie, welcome Susan. So the challenge for me is to help people understand that if I make an observation, and that I'm just trying to describe them. If I have, as I do, I have 50 years of experience doing therapy, which included many years of doing psychological testing and assessing people for their intellectual capabilities, as well as their psychological profiles, etc. So when I'm sitting and talking to somebody, and I've had 3 or 4 sessions with them, I have a very good sense of what their intelligence is related to the average. And oftentimes in my work with people, I will make an observation, and I will say, well, we understand that you're decidedly above average in intelligence. And often the person I'm talking to will cringe, and I'll be able to see it. Or they'll say, well, no, I'm not. Or how do you know that? Or they'll push back in some way. And my statement that you are decidedly above average intelligence is just an observation. It's not a compliment. It's not me sucking up to them, trying to get a favor from them. It's not me flirting with them. And it's very difficult at times getting people to understand, because they've got an internal process that wants to push away, hide, or run from any acknowledgement of their strengths or their skills. And for each person in which that is the case, they'll have their own individual dynamic. I can't know what that reason is, why someone would push away a compliment. Even though it's not a compliment, it's an observation. They would read it as a compliment, it kind of pushes an emotional button with them, and now they want to push it away. So I will try to help them understand first that my statement or observation was not intended as a compliment. And it's not up for debate. It's just an observation. It's like somebody came in the other day and they had a water bottle that they put um, on the coffee table, and they had a bag that they put, like a backpack, they put on the floor next to their feet, and then they had black tennis shoes on. And so I said, if I said to you, "Oh, I see that you put your water bottle on the coffee table and your bag next to the on the floor next to your black tennis shoes," would you think that's a compliment that you would need to say, "Oh, well, thank you," or "I don't think you're right"? And they say, "Well, no, that's just an observation." That's the point I'm trying to make. When I'm sitting with someone and we're trying to work on helping them understand themselves better and get a better, more honest perspective of their role in the world and their place in their families, etc. And I make an observation like you're decidedly above average intelligence. It's just an observation. And if I'm sitting with somebody who's 45 years old and he or she is above average intelligence, that means when they were 4 and 5 years old, they were above average intelligence. And if we start observing, okay, this is what's happening, and this kind of a situation evolved or happened when you were 5 years old, and you were trying to make sense of it, and you're very bright. You were bright now, you were bright when you were 5. You did the best you could to make sense of this situation. And you had no way of having the perspective that we would have as adults to understand that to begin with, a 5-year-old didn't create this situation. A 5-year-old wasn't making other people angry or sad or hurt. A 5-year-old didn't ruin the family dynamics, etc., etc. And as we tease through those observations and the person starts to let themselves feel and remember what they might have downloaded when they were younger, they start to get a deeper understanding of what they have made impressions in their mind and what they've made in terms of meanings for themselves in the world. And when I ran into 2 of these within the past month or so, 2 different people I'm working with, they push away any kind of an acknowledgement of their strengths and their successes because they don't want to be like their parents. And maybe their parents were grandiose or narcissistic, and they're afraid that if they accept a compliment or if they acknowledge their intelligence, or that, for instance, in one case, a person who achieved 2 master's degrees doesn't want to acknowledge that that is evidence that they're above average in intelligence and that they've got a significant amount of drive for achievement and accomplishment. Why? Because they're terrified that if they let that in or they start thinking positively about themselves, they'll go off on a holy terror like their parents and think they're better than everybody and always want to talk about themselves and not be able to connect with other people emotionally, etc. So eh, eh, all of us do this in various ways. All of us are holding different beliefs and perspectives and opinions, and they're a part of the process that is activated in us anytime we generate an emotional state. Right? Most of us have been taught that our emotions are caused by people and things outside of us, by us either getting what we want or not getting what we want, or getting what we don't want. The core of this work is to help us understand that the mechanism that creates an emotion within a human being lies inside the human being. And it's far more related to the meanings that we have given our past events and downloaded into our belief system. And it's highly dependent upon the interpretation we choose and place on the flow of life events as they unfold around us and in front of us. If I think that what you said or didn't say means you don't like me or you don't want to be around me, and I pour enough of my mind energy into that interpretation for this flow of events, I start to generate a negative emotion based on my thought, you don't like me and you don't want to be around me. The fact of the matter might be you were very much appreciative of time with me, you like me, you'd like to be around me, but something has come up that's going to prevent you from being with me for this next event. That's independent of my creation of the emotion of upset or sadness or hurt, because I choose the interpretation, oh, I must not be important to you. You must not like me. You don't want to spend time with me. If I change that interpretation within me, I can feel better even though nothing's changed. In the past, one of the books that I've read and done commentary on quite a bit is the book by, um, the book title is Awareness. And the author's name will come to me, but he tells a story about being in a workshop, a weekend workshop, and there's a nun there. He's a um, I think he's a Jesuit priest. He was. He's deceased, but he has a wonderful style, deep spirituality, very bright. He understands how these things work outside of a religious context. He's a far more yogic, like a yogi, than he was a priest. And he tells the story of this nun who was in there, and she came to him and she said, I've got this horrible problem. I've got this mother superior who it's been, I've been at this um, nunnery for 5 years, and she's never come to visit. And so Anthony DeMello is the writer of the book, and he's the speaker in this conference. And he says to the nun, well, listen, let me tell you something, because I know that Mother Superior very well. And I know she's really got her hands full. And the only reason she hasn't come to your convent to see how you're doing is she knows you're handling it so well. And she's got so many other places that are falling apart that that's where she spends her time, where she's in, but she greatly appreciates you and the work you're doing there. And the nun says, really? And he says, yeah, how are you feeling now? And she says, I feel great. A few minutes ago, I was feeling horrible because she was ignoring me and I thought she didn't like me. And he says, absolutely, I can understand that, but I want to reassure you that this Mother Superior thinks you're doing a fabulous job, and that's why she doesn't need to come and visit you, because everything's going so well. And she goes, oh, thank you so much. And he says, now, I have an errand I'd like you to run. And so he sends her out of the room. And then he says to the rest of the people in the conference, he says, now, the truth of the matter is, the Mother Superior hasn't been to this convent in years because it's such a mess that when she goes, she knows she's going to have to stay there for at least a half a year, or maybe a full year, if she's lucky, to get this place straightened out. Because this nun that I just sent out of the room is such a basket case. She's ruined the whole thing. And they groan. She says, no, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And then, of course, they bring her back in the room. And Anthony says, so how are you feeling now? And she says, I still feel great. And he says, oh, there you have it. The actuality of life does not create our emotions. If we choose a positive interpretation for something and apply it to our situation, we will generate the emotions that are go along with that positive interpretation. And it's not up for debate. Someone has written, I'm at work listening, but I have a question. How do you accept something that you can't change when it's in your face? Or accept it without negative emotion? Well, the primary thing is what I'm just talking about, is that I can change the interpretation that I place on this event. I can say to myself, oh, I'm telling myself I don't like this, and this is bad, and this is wrong. And as long as I keep telling myself I don't like it, and it's bad, it's wrong, it shouldn't happen, I'm going to generate the negative emotions that go along with those conclusions. However, if I say to myself, you know what, even some of the worst things that have happened to me in the past have led directly or indirectly to some of the best things in my life today, even though I don't like this situation, I wonder how it could work out even better than what I want. I wonder how it might turn into a blessing for myself and others. I wonder how it might contain a lesson for me that I need to learn in order to move forward in my life. I wonder how, because of this situation and the demands it places on me to change or adapt, that I might meet people that I wouldn't meet any other way, that I might be a blessing in their life or they might be a blessing in mine. And if I keep generating that negative emotional energy around this, I can tap into the EFT tapping. I can go to YouTube and type in the words, uh, who is my favorite go-to person for YouTube for the EFT tapping? I have asked people on a regular basis to go search for Brad Yates, B-R-A-D, second name, Yates, Y-A-T-E-S. And he has an intro to tapping, which is just a 5-minute video. And then you can, after you watch that 5-minute video and you learn how he does the tapping, which is very similar to the way I've taught people the tapping for years, then you can type in your YouTube search engine, Brad Yates anxiety, Brad Yates anger, Brad Yates rage, Brad Yates back pain, and have him tapping in anywhere from a 7 to a 9-minute video that you can tap along with, and you can have your own EFT tapping coach. What is EFT? It stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And the emotional freedom technique, the simple way to talk about it is I tell people it's an absolutely free, powerful way for you to give yourself an acupressure treatment for anything that bothers you physically, mentally, or emotionally. So even though the outside situation doesn't change, you can feel better. And we get the same kind of results quite often when we do reality management worksheets, whether we're doing them alone, we're doing them on the internet show, or we're doing them in the support groups. The last time somebody called in a support group and did a reality management worksheet, they went from a 9 out of 10 anger down to a 4 out of 10 and dropping, even though nothing in their world that was related to what they thought was causing the anger, nothing had changed. In just the 15 or 20 minutes that it took us to do the reality management worksheet in the group, they had a more than half reduction in their anger. Well, the same kind of thing happens on a regular basis with people who like the EFT tapping. And you can get your own almost personalized online coach for EFT tapping if you go to YouTube and type in Brad Yates. Or I think his website is Tapping with Brad. But you can find him. He's very solid. He's allowed me to interview him twice. We were on a panel together once um, since in the past 5 years with the coronavirus restrictions. It was an online mental health summit. And so he's very solid. And one of the reasons that people say, oh my gosh, Dr. Hayes, watching Brad Yates is like just being in the class with you, is because both of us have stayed very close to what we learned from the founder and the creator of EFT tapping, and that is Gary Craig. And Gary Craig's work can be found on emofree.com, EMOFREE.com. So I hope that's useful for Lane as she's talking about how do you deal with something that you experience as negative when it's in your face. The beginning of that way to deal with it is to understand that all of the negativity that you're experiencing is being created inside you by the interpretation that you're creating. One of my favorite things to do when I am dealing with somebody that is expressing themselves in a way that I find unpleasant or negative or angry or hurtful is I remind myself, you know what, this person began as a sperm and an egg, just like me. They grew in a fetus in somebody's body, and they came out as pure and innocent as any other child ever did. What I just try to imagine what kinds of negative life situations and or lack of resources combined with difficult life situations must they have gone through to end up as the adult in front of me that's either raging at somebody or is constantly choosing a negative interpretation of things or is insulting other people. And that allows me to start shifting over away from my irritation or my displeasure into compassion. You know, there's a great line. I forget whether it was Longfellow or Emerson or one of those people said that, you know, if we could but know the secret pain of our enemies, it would be enough to dismantle every level of aggression and violence and negativity. So one of the things I do when I'm faced with somebody who is not being as tolerant or as loving or as patient as I think they should be, or I think I would like to see them be, or as understanding or as good at listening, is I choose that kind of a filter. I remind myself this is just another person who's either doesn't have the same kind of resources I have for being pleasant and compassionate and positive and uplifting, or they've just been through so many traumas in their life when they were younger that it's left them in this place where they don't know, as a way of mastery would say, they don't know how to get whatever they want out of life without creating disruption for others. They have yet to discover, or they've temporarily forgotten, that they are a being of brilliance and light. And then the next thing I do, if I'm still not feeling better, is I move into what Pierre Pradervand calls the gentle art of blessing. And I start to get an image in my mind of this person exhibiting the opposite traits of the ones that I'm finding unfavorable. So if they're being impatient, if they're yelling at somebody, if they're hurling insults, I start getting an image in my mind of this very person in front of me being patient, being respectful, being loving. And I get that image in my heart space and I send that loving energy out to them, seeing them in their highest and best, acting by using my mind energy to create an emotion of compassion and gentleness and imagining that I'm radiating that out to them from my heart space. You know, Michael Rice in his work has talked about how from the ancient Aramaic translated directly into English, the word that comes down to us as humility has a definition in the ancient Aramaic that's a lot more like the ability to see, right, to identify with the highest and best in another person and then choose to cooperate only with that. So that definition for humility from the ancient Aramaic, according to my eye and ear, my mind tells me that's almost exactly what Pierre Pradervand stumbled across. And if you want to hear more about the gentle art of blessing from the creator of it himself, Pierre Pradervand, you can go to mindshiftersacademy.org and you can get the little search icon, tap on that, and just type in Pierre, Pierre, and hit enter. And it will come up with a single page, easy to find, where you can click on the link and listen to the interview that I did with Pierre Pradervand on Mindshifters Radio years ago. And we talked about his first book, The Gentle Art of Blessing, and um, and his second book, 365 Blessings to Heal Myself and the World. Now, these aren't the first and second books he's ever written, but they were the first two that I read of his. And then, so that's my offering at Lane. I hope that's useful. These are various ways that I personally go around dealing with things that when I experience them in my life, they're less than pleasant. And I understand that any negative emotional state that I experience is being created inside me. And I take that calming breath and turn the focus inside and try to use every tool in my toolkit to change my emotional state and then send a more loving energy out into the world around me. And sometimes I have to walk away, take a breath, and give myself permission to go do some tapping or some reality management worksheets before I'm capable of restoring that calm, loving, positive energy to my internal space. So here's hoping that's beneficial. Lane, thank you for the comments and questions. And and we're here at the end of our first hour, so I'm going to sign off and encourage you all to open up your needle apps and come back on when Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice start their second hour, hopefully in just a minute or so. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff that we call love. We actually are love, the energy of creation expressing in form, and everything else is false. Blessings.